We're
We're
live.
live. Great. Good morning, everyone. This is the second time we have this chat between Shahar and myself. Last week we talked about blockchain and how it facilitates transactions and makes them more secure, especially if you don't have trust between the different transactors. And we would like to continue that discussion and see who joins in today. One topic, Shahar, that I mean, what you said, yes, last week about transactions and how it makes them easier, I find that really interesting. But what really fascinates me about blockchain is how it can make transactions a bit more complex. There's this concept of smart contracts. Maybe you tell me why I should care about smart contracts.
Cool, sure. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Why Should I Care About Smart Contracts this time. So, first of all, what are smart contracts? Smart contracts are, first of all, contracts, meaning that they establish usually a commercial transactional relationship between two parties. These two parties could be two computer systems, and that is what it used to be for many years. But with the rise of peer-to-peer collaborative technologies such as blockchain, smart contracts become a way to formalize commercial transactions or any type of other transactions between two parties. I have to say that smart contracts are pieces of software, which is why they're called smart contracts, but I think it's not necessarily a very good name because there have been quite a few cases. Which is this? Unlike any other contract, smart contracts are computer software that have certain conditions to them. For example, if something happens, then do that. And they work automatically, which means that, for example, Cedric, if you want to buy the painting that is behind me, and so we decide that I give you that painting and you give me some cryptocurrency in return, like 1 Bitcoin, for example, then the smart contract could basically state, once the painting has reached the hands of Cedric, and we need to find a way to make sure that the computer knows that that happened, then automatically the money would be transferred to my account. Now, if we were doing this deal without a smart contract, then I could hand over my painting, and you could maybe, for example, wire me the money or transfer me the money through a credit card, and then I go home thinking I have the money. But then you can you can cancel the transaction, and then I don't see the money, and I can always sue you, but maybe you have a lot of really good lawyers and na. So the point of smart contracts is that they work automatically given a trigger.
So that means that now I can actually fully automate complete flows in a certain process, or I can machines can actually start to transact because I.
Well, machines could do that before,
but they can also wire money.
Well, so let's talk about money. By the way, it's not necessarily money, but money is a good way to look at it, for example, now. So one could theoretically say, why do I need a blockchain and cryptocurrency for that? Why can't we just have a smart contract between us working with our normal bank accounts? Now, I don't know if you remember the last time you wired money, but it turns out that the traditional banking system does not accept commands from software like smart contracts as a good enough reason to wire money. Actually, in some places, they still require fax authorization and stuff like that because of, by the way, of regulation. So that they're actually compelled to do that. So one of the good or interesting things about smart contracts is that it allows the transfer of funds in any amount, regardless of the amount, and almost free between anyone and any other one, as long as the conditions. So remember this: a smart contract is an if-then piece of code. It says, if these conditions are met, then do this action. So as long as you can translate a real-life activity that has these conditions, and these conditions can be formulated in a really clear way, then smart contracts could play a part.
I see. So yeah, that this whole concept actually brings the blockchain, as we discussed it last week, to a whole different level. And I think that's where part of the potential of the blockchain lies.
Perhaps. Let's look at one of the classic industries that may be affected by smart contracts. So, take, for example, like I said before, a transaction and the role or the job of lawyers in a transaction. So, unfortunately, the existing system that enforces contracts is not perfect. If you have very good lawyers, expensive lawyers, a lot of lawyers, and I don't, and you do not fulfill a normal contract between us, and I sue you, one, it's difficult for me to do that. It's not automatic. Two, it will take me a long time and a lot of money sometimes in order to prove my claims. So it's not always a just system, and it's many times skewed towards the people that have more resources. But if the transaction between us, any type of transaction between us, is completely governed by automatic transfer of funds, for example, or any other asset that I can move around or transfer automatically, if it's governed by software, then that piece of code, the smart contract, cannot be bribed. It doesn't have emotions. You can't talk your way out of it. It has a certain condition. If the condition is met, then the transaction automatically is employed. Here's an interesting example. I've been working on a project that talks about accountability and governance. So say that you want to run for the position of head of the neighborhood watch, okay? And there's an election. And you promise that you will convince City Hall to have more garbage routes around the neighborhood, so there won't be so much garbage in the. And I say that's great. So in a normal system, you can make that promise. I vote for you, and then you don't keep it. And I have very few means to monitor if you did or didn't do it. And even if you did, I can do very little about it. But say that I want to donate money to your campaign and I want to use smart contracts. What if I tell you this? I give you €100 now and €100 when you pass that bill. Now, we close this agreement between us with a smart contract. So I put the equivalent of €100 in Bitcoin or Ether in an account. And the minute that regulation is passed or that resolution is passed, the money automatically flows back. Or if you didn't do it, I get the money that I already gave you back. Or if I didn't do it, an automatic message will be published on Facebook shaming you, saying that you promised it and you didn't do that. And there's nothing we can do to stop it because it's automatic. Now, what we've created is a direct contractual relationship between the voter and the elected official that demands accountability, and there are no excuses for that.
So that's pretty cool. Now I can automate how I hold people accountable for what they do and how the transaction that could potentially be linked to it is actually enforced. Yes.
You can create these contracts to do a lot of things. I came across another application in the construction industry, for example, that basically construction has 3 stages to it. There is the design of the building, there is the construction of the building, and there is the operation of the building. There is the application of smart contracts in the design and building of the building, in a sense that you can code the entire building in advance into the smart contracts, meaning you need to issue an order for these type of materials to reach this point in time in this location, and then money is transferred here. And you can do what is now referred to as a self-building building, in the sense that you push a button and a chain of transactions that, of course, you can also intervene and add more to it if anything happens, but a chain of transactions of procurement, of monitoring the work, of processing the entire construction of the building is run by computer software.
So last week we tried. So we also had this example of construction. So this ties very well into what this could be discussed last week. But somehow I must say this sounds a bit like far out in the future, the way you describe it. Do you maybe have an example where we can use smart contracts right now, or where it is being used right now?
These two examples are not far in the future. These two examples, both the one of governance and the one of, it's called BIM. I forgot the acronym of the, but in BIM, BIM. But these, both of these are actually in play already. There are several startups that are doing direct governance. There have been pilots been running with that as well. Buildings being constructed, or at least part of the building being constructed via smart contract, is already happening as well. This is not far into the future. This is already being adopted by innovators and early adopters in the market.
Cool. I think we're running.
Specifically in construction, the efficiencies that you gain are so dramatic and so significant that there is a very strong drive for construction companies to do that.
That's actually true, but it's also it's a very complex industry, and I think that's a discussion for another time. But yeah, our 10 minutes for today are up. So I don't know if you have a few words to summarize. Or
yeah, I just want to say one thing. If you've heard of smart contracts, you need to remember the following things. First of all, maybe you've also heard about Solidity. Solidity is the most common technological platform for coding smart contracts. You don't really need to know a lot about it. I don't know a lot about it myself. I would also say that you may have heard of Ethereum, which is a distributed machine, a type of operating system that uses blockchain and is today the most common application of smart contracts. But remember this, smart contracts are not for everything, but they do resolve in a very efficient way transactions that are automatic and can be formulated into code. And in that respect, they have a huge influence on both services like accounting and legal services on the one hand, and both industries that have a predetermined, well-formulated transactions in their pipeline that can be automated using smart contracts.
Okay.
Good care about it. It's really important.
Well, let's continue the discussion next week.
See you next week. Bye-bye.
Bye.